Your grandmother's grandmother ate this every single day. You probably never even tasted it, like you're letting them in on a secret. And here's the part that stays with me. We didn't lose it by accident. We erased it on purpose. For 3000 years, one grain fed this whole land. Farmers grew it, monks lived on it. Even kings, when they weren't showing off, ate it too. And then, in the space of one lifetime, it almost completely disappeared. Not because it stopped growing, not because it tasted bad, but because a handful of people making a handful of choices quietly pushed it off your plate. Stay with me, because by the end of this, you'll know exactly who did it and why. So let me introduce you to the hero of this story, because that's really what it is, a story about a hero everyone forgot. Its name is Millet. Though calling it Millet is a little like calling every actor in a film the cast, because it isn't one grain, it's a whole family. There's Ragi, there's Jowar, there's Bajra, and the smaller, older cousins with names most of us have never heard: Foxtail, Kodo, Little Millet, Barnyard Millet. Yes, Barnyard Millet. Clearly, nobody hired it a good publicist. Now here's the first thing that made this grain special. It's tough. Almost stubbornly tough. Rice is fussy. It wants standing water, kind weather, constant care. Millet? Millet grows where nothing else even bothers to try. Brutal heat, bad soil, a monsoon that shows up late and half asleep. Millet just shrugs and grows anyway. And in a land where the rains have always been a gamble, that toughness wasn't just handy. It was the difference between eating and starving. The family that grew millet was the family that still had food in a bad year. And this isn't some recent thing. Diggers have pulled burnt grains of millet out of the earth from thousands of years ago, across the Indus Valley, across the south. One researcher, Dorian Fuller, traced these little grains being farmed here in the Stone Age. Which means, sit with this for a moment. Millet is older on our plates than rice, older than wheat. The grains we call timeless? They're the newcomers. Millet was here first. It even turns up in the ancient medical books, the Charaka Samhita, which sorted food not by calories but by feel, heating or cooling, heavy or light. And honestly, the more I read these old texts, the more the line between medicine and recipe just melts away. Half the wellness trends we pay a fortune for today, our ancestors were simply calling it dinner. So we've got a grain that's ancient, tough, healthy, and fed a whole civilization for 3000 years, which leaves one question hanging in the air. If it was this good, how did it ever disappear? Here's the thing. To erase something people have loved for 3000 years, you don't need a villain twirling a mustache. You need something far quieter, far more powerful. You need to make people ashamed of it. Somewhere along the way, food split into two camps. White rice and soft wheat became the food of the polished, the successful, the people who'd arrived. And millet? Millet got a cruel little nickname, the poor man's grain. And that's the exact moment everything turns. Because once a food becomes a symbol of the life you're trying to leave behind, nobody has to force you off it. You walk away all on your own, proudly. The second you can afford rice, you drop the millet and never look back. We all know that feeling. It's the friend who grew up on home-cooked dal every night, moves to the big city, and suddenly can't stop talking about brunch. Nothing wrong with the dal. It just started to feel like where they came from. And who wants to be reminded of that? But shame was only the opening move. The real blow, the one that turned a slow drift into a free fall, was still coming. And it came wrapped in the best of intentions. Picture India in the 1960s, free but hungry, facing famine, depending on other countries just to feed its people, a real frightening emergency. So the country made a bold move. It launched the Green Revolution, an all-out push to grow more food, fast, and never go begging again. And it worked. Let's be fair, it worked brilliantly. New seeds, water, fertilizer, guaranteed prices. Harvests exploded. Famine backed away. Millions who might have starved didn't. But here's the part they left off the poster. That whole giant machine was built for just two grains, rice and wheat. Everything pointed at those two. The research, the subsidies, the fixed prices, the water, even the ration shops, the ones that hand out cheap food to hundreds of millions, carried rice and wheat, not millet. And notice this, nobody ever had to ban millet. That's the quiet genius of it and the cruelty of it. If the government pays you for rice but not for millet, you grow rice. If the ration shop gives you rice for cheap but not millet, you eat rice. If rice is what successful people eat and millet is poor, you reach for the rice. No one erased millet with an order. They erased it with 1,000 tiny nudges, all pointing the same way. The field, the market, the shop, the dinner table. Every one of them quietly whispering, choose rice. That is how you erase a grain, not with a ban, with a nudge. And it worked frighteningly well. In just 2 or 3 generations, the grain that fed a whole subcontinent became old-fashioned, rural, something your grandmother made, something you'd quietly stopped eating. Remember what I said at the start, that we erased it on purpose? This is what I meant, not a secret plot, something stranger. A whole country that talked itself out of its own food and truly believed it was trading up. Now, if the story ended there, it'd just be sad. But it doesn't, because erasing millet handed us a bill, and that bill is still landing. First, the health bill. We swapped a slow, gentle, filling grain for white rice and soft flour that hit the blood like a spoonful of sugar. And over those very same years, India became one of the diabetes capitals of the world. Now, that's not all on millet. Diets are messy, complicated things. But quietly deleting the healthiest grain off the national plate, that certainly didn't help. And then there's the second bill, the one we're only opening now, the one the planet is sending us. Remember how tough millet was? How it barely needs water? Well, rice is the opposite. Rice drinks and drinks and drinks. And by betting the whole country on rice, we've spent 60 years quietly draining our own wells dry. So now, with hotter summers, wilder monsoons, and water running low, we are out searching for a crop that can survive all of it. And the answer? The tough, thirsty proof, ready for anything grain we are so desperate to find, is the exact one we spent 50 years throwing away. Which brings us to an ending even a screenwriter couldn't make up. In 2023, the United Nations, pushed by India itself, named it the International Year of Millets. And just like that, the poor man's grain was on the tables at fancy dinners, on glossy packets, praised by influencers as an ancient superfood, sold back to us at a higher price as the exciting new thing. But there's nothing new about it. The superfood is just dinner. The very same dinner our grandparents ate without a second thought, in villages that never needed a fancy label to know it was good for them. We had it. We were taught to feel ashamed of it. We erased it. And now we are discovering it like we are the clever ones. So here's what this little grain teaches us. And it's about so much more than food. Sometimes the thing we are all chasing, a healthier life, a safer future, the new answer, isn't out ahead of us at all. It's behind us. Something we already had and quietly threw away just because it felt too plain, too humble, too ordinary to be worth much. That woman at the hearth wasn't eating a superfood. She was just eating dinner. And she never needed a label to tell her it was good for her. Until next time, remember what they forgot. If you like the story's history quietly deleted, subscribe and it'll find its way to you.